This is first tutorial of C# advanced tutorial category. Let's start from our agenda. First, async and await. What is named parameter? What is param? What is anonymous type? What is anonymous method? What is extension method? What is field? What is partial class? Let's start one by one. Async and await. Using the asynchronous approach, the application continue with the other task when current thread get blocked. The async and await keywords in C# are used in asynchronous process. So you have to understand what is asynchronous process, why it is needed. Okay, let me see it in your real task. Consider you having two tasks. You are going to buy biryani and you are going to buy a gift for your loved ones. I like biryani, that's the reason I took that example. Okay, you are reaching your restaurant, you ordered your biryani, they said it will take 20 minutes. Okay, you are waited there and you collected your packed food and after 20 minutes. Then you are move on to your gift shop and you choose your gift and you have bought after 15 minutes. Totally you spend for this task 20 minutes plus 15 minutes, 35 minutes. Okay, so this what you spend. First you waited for biryani get ready, then you bought your gift. Totally 20 plus 15, 35 minutes you waited for this task. Okay, you have to understand here, on this 20 minutes you are not done anything, just you order it, right? You are not going to prepare it. Middle of that time someone is doing the task, you just hold on your task and you waited for that. Okay, so this is synchronous process. Once complete, the first one get complete, then only the next one will get started. Okay, but there is no need of synchronous process. We can do asynchronous. How? You can just go to your restaurant and order your biryani, then you move on to your gift shop and choose get it back, and you, by the way, while coming you can get your biryani. So because there is no synchronous process needed here, so this is called asynchronous process. You just order your biryani, then you move on to your gift shop and you choose your gift and bought, and while came back you collected biryani. Totally for biryani 20 minutes it's parallel. Parallelly you spend 15 minutes for gift. So after coming to your restaurant, you just waited for 5 minutes. Then your biryani got ready, you collected. So here you have spent totally 20 minutes. This is a real time. We can say what is synchronous process, how we can do it asynchronous. But we can't do all the things are as synchronous. There will be some when our current work or current thread not going to do anything on this particular task, it's just going to wait for few minutes. So in that case we can do asynchronous process. In real time, in programming language, there will be multiple things like that. For example, we or our thread waiting for some action HTML response. Like we just call some API, that API going to respond, we are hold it for that time, or we are waiting for user inputs, or some manual delay our coding having it. Those times our thread is going to just being idle. So in that case we can go with asynchronous process. So our application will get more faster. You got it? Okay, let's see our program so that you will get more understanding. Here I created one console application. It having the three methods. One is execute task. This task only we are going to execute it. It having the another two method, that is a restaurant and gift shop. Here I made 3000 milliseconds wait. Here I made 1000 milliseconds wait. You can see here I am calling this method. Just a read line I am keeping the console output window. So I am here. I am having the stopwatch because we have to know what is the time calculated for that. Overall I am having one total stopwatch for completing the two tasks. Other two stopwatch I am having for restaurant and also gift shop. Restaurant watch I am calling this method, so it going to wait 3000 millisecond. Here I am having the gift shop, so you can see it here. I am stopping here, just I am printing elapsed milliseconds. Same way for this also total. Okay, let me run this. You can get the flow. We see what is the output. Our biryani got ready. Also we got gift. This is 3006. This is 1012. Totally 4020. Okay, you can remember 4020. It is a synchronous process output. Let me change to asynchronous. Let me see what is our progress. Now I change into asynchronous. So here you can see the restaurant alone I made it as a task return type. I am running this sleep in task.run. Okay, so here I have to keep the await, so I am using the async. I will tell you why we need the async and await keyword later. First we will run this and check that. Previously we got 4013 something. You can see 3002. Before completing the biryani, we bought gift because that is a minimum time we having it, right? So it went to that. This is a asynchronous process. Let me explain you one by one. Here, actually, when you thought of making a asynchronous process, your particular process should be splitted as a task. So that's the reason I am having here as a task. For example, here our task is thread.sleep, right? I am doing this into the task.run, because the task.run is like what will happen internally. All the task will be kept it in the some queue kind of things. So based on the particular order it will get executed. My task I am assigning into the task queue and running it. So which method we are making as asynchronous, it should be return task. Maybe if you want to return as a integer, currently it is void, so I am not keeping anything behind that. For example, your restaurant going to return, I mean your method going to return some integer value. So in that case your value will be like this, int of something. So here you will return of some value. Maybe here you will return 1. Okay, you are clear now? Just I am returning. So if it is a string, it will be string. Under this task you will return some string. Previously our return for this restaurant we are not going to return, we kept as a void. So that's the reason I am not specifying anything, just I am keeping task alone. Okay, so you have to remember which process or which method going to be a asynchronous process that should return task, so that we can able to handle our process. Okay, I am splitting as a task here. Okay, here why we need the async? I don't need async, right? Okay, let me remove this. Okay, I removed this one also. Just I am having like this. So in that case, still it will do the asynchronous process, but the problem, we have to denote this restaurant going to be asynchronous. So in that case, the calling this function, the main function should have the asynchronous property, so that our compiler will understand this method going to have some asynchronous methods or asynchronous process. Okay, we kept like this. So what will happen, it will start this one and execute the next task, right? But somewhere without buying biryani I could not go out, I mean I could not exit. So in that case we have to wait particular end. For example, the await is a keyword to wait for that. If I keep await here, again it is the same way. Thread will wait here until the restaurant will complete. So we don't want to wait here, we want to wait after purchasing gift. So in that case what will happen, we can have like task t. So I am assigning this restaurant task to, after completing the gift, just I am waiting await of particular task. Okay, so most of the people's getting confused while using the await. The main purpose of await is holding the particular thread to complete the particular task. Okay, so the synchronous going to do the same ways. Then why we need the await? This is a point here. The await purpose is blocking the thread, but using the asynchronous we can make it where we can do the blocking, because in asynchronous it will get blocked here itself, but in asynchronous using this await we can able to block in somewhere. Maybe we can have it in here itself, maybe at the end of program we can block, because in asynchronous programming there will be a chance to it is asynchronous, right? So while doing the asynchronous process itself, it will get complete, our program itself get complete without completing this task. So we have to make sure that one. So our program has to complete when all the asynchronous tasks get completed. So that's the reason whenever we are using the async, it will expect await has to. But await, where we are placing that await is a matter of this asynchronous process. Okay, you are clear? Let me show you that example. Even I am keeping here itself await. Okay, let me run. You can see again it is a 4000 around something. This is the same amount of time we get it on synchronous itself, right? So the await has to place in particular order. Placing the await is very important. So in that case what we'll do, it will start the task and it will execute this one. After completing this, it will wait for particular task has to complete. Here you can see it is a 3000 something. Okay, you are clear? Yeah, let me. Named parameter. Named parameter allow developers to pass a method arguments with parameter name. It helps to avoid constraint about sequence of parameter and arguments. Let me see in example. See here, I am having one method display, it having the two property I comma j, that is integer type. So just I am printing I equal to particular I value, j equal to particular j value. So here I am calling that method, I am passing 1 comma 2. So let me see here, I equal to 1, j equal to 2. So how it get mapped, I mean the 1 getting mapped to I, it is based on the sequence. So if I want to change this sequence, I mean this 1 has to point j, 2 has to point 2. The one way you can, why you are doing like this, instead of that you can do like this, right? I mean we can pause this, it will map it here. Simply we can do like this. So I will get 2, but there will be case like, for example, I hope you know about the default parameters. Think about that, you having the default parameter I equal to 0 and both the parameters having the value. Okay, in this case you don't want to pass I, but you want to pass j. First one you don't want to pass j, so think about that. I am passing 2, you got I equal to 2, the j taken the default value of particular. The same way I am saying you don't want to pass I, but you have to pass j. Still we can do that using like a 0 comma that way, but there is some cases we will get, we don't want to, maybe here some value getting assigned, you could not pass it here. Maybe consider it having the 10 parameters, how to pass only the 9th parameters. So you should not pass all the 8 parameters as a default value, then you could not call that 9th parameter, right? So it will be little bit complex. So in that case you can specify the name of the parameter j colon. Think about now, see it here, the I taken the 0, the j took the value. So while calling the function itself, you can able to specify the name of the parameter. Currently when we are playing with a huge number of parameters, maybe the parameter having the some default values. So in that case going to the named parameter is little bit easier. Also it will user friendly, because for example while assigning the value itself, you came to know for which parameter you are assigning the value. Okay, you are clear? That's what we mentioned here. Named parameter allow developers to pass a method arguments with the parameter name. We used j, right? That is a parameter name. It helps to avoid constraint about sequence of parameter and arguments. One thing you have to understand, what is difference between parameter and arguments. The parameter describe about arguments of method declaration. I mean we have specified int I, int j, right? That is parameter. Method braces having the defined parameters, that is called method parameters. The argument describe about the calling methods values. So the peoples will get confused, parameters and arguments both are same. Actually it is having the difference. So parameter describe about the declaration of the method, arguments describe about calling of the method. Okay, you are clear? Let's move on to the next. Params. What is params? Params is a keyword which is used to specify a parameter that takes variable number of arguments. It is useful when we don't know the number of argument prior. Only one param keyword is allowed and no additional parameter is permitted after params keyword in a functional declaration. You are a little bit confused, I can understand that. Yeah, think about that. We use the current method, right? Display. It is having the two defined parameter. So whenever you are calling that function, you came to know you can pass only 1 or 2 parameters. But some cases you will get how to use the same method, but you doesn't know how many parameters or how many arguments they are going to pass it. So usually the arguments is defined by the parameters. Meaning if the parameter having the 5, so you can able to you definitely pass the 5. Maybe the based on optional argument it may get vary. Maybe I can say like can able to pass 1 to 5, but you can't extend the parameters count. Okay, you are clear? So there will be a case you could not able to define the parameter size. So those case we can go with params. As I told here, we know it is I comma j. So there will be a case you have to pass any number of this value. Okay, in that case what we can do, we can declare params here. Params is a keyword After that you can specify int array of I. Okay, here what we'll do, instead of this we will use for each. Here I dot length. Here I will see, here I declare params is a keyword. I am using the array. It is an integer type. So here I am using the for each. Just I am looping the item. Just I am printing it. So here I am having only one parameter. It is expecting array. But while calling this function, I am not passing the array. Why? Because it is having the params. So we can able to pass as a individual arguments. It will convert into array. This is the best way of params. You can see item 1, item 2. So here I want to pass 3, 4. So still this method will get accept this. See here. So you can pass any number, but here one constraint, you could not pass string because our params is defined with the type. So whenever you having the params and this params type, you can able to pass any number of that. Also with these params you can add some other parameters, like for example string name. You can have it, but you should remember the param should be the last argument of parameter. Always it should be the last item. You should not declare params in here. It won't allow. This is a one constraint. Okay. We discussed previously one constraint, that is the same data type. Second one is it should be last. The third one, you should not use more than one params in same function. For example, let me try this. It should not allow. So only one params you can able to use. You can see the parameter must be the last one. Okay, you are clear? On to the next. Anonymous type. An anonymous type is a type without any name. It contains only publicly read-only properties. It can't have other members such as field, method, even etc. The property of anonymous type are read-only and can't be initialized with a null, anonymous function or pointer. The properties can be accessed using dot notation, same as object property. There is a property called nested anonymous type and an array of anonymous type. Okay. You are not clear, right? I know. Whenever we are seeing the theoretical things, we will get confused. Yeah, let's move on to the sample so that you have idea. See here, I am having the one main method. In that main method, I am creating one object. It is a var type, meaning it is a dynamic type. Okay. Here, I am assigning a keyword called new. Usually, I hope you know about the C#, right? In the C#, we will use the new keyword whenever we are initializing the object. It's kind of object we are using. That's the reason we are using the new. After that, we are not specifying the name. Usually, whenever we are initializing the object, we will specify new. After that, the constructor name we will specify it, right? Object or class name. That's the reason we call it as a anonymous type. Okay. New, open brace and close brace. Here we are specifying our name, property name. Here you no need to specify the type of property. For example, I am specifying as a int. You should not specify here. You can have a property name and you can directly assign this value, because dynamically it will consider as a numeric. If you are assigning string, it will consider as a string. Okay. Also, all the properties are separated by the comma. You could not use the semicolon here. So all the properties should be a semicolon. Also here you could not assign null. Okay, because this property type going to get it from the value in the runtime. So you should not assign null. Also, for example, you could not assign any anonymous method here. For example, I am declaring one variable. I am assigning the delegate method here. You should not assign it. Okay, so you have to remember constraints one by one. The anonymous type declared by the new keyword with the curly braces. So you should not have the name. That is a 1 point. The point number 2, the properties does not have the data types. So it will get the data types by assigning the value. Okay. The third one, The properties are segregated by the comma. We can able to assign only property. We should not use the field methods in anonymous type. Also, we can't assign null values in the anonymous type. Okay. The fourth point, the anonymous type has to get it by dot notation. Anonymous, for example, this is the anonymous type. The anonymous properties are getting by the dot notation. You can able to see. I can using this object where we are assigning this anonymous object, anonymous type. There I can able to access this dot notation. So object dot ab, whatever I am having in the anonymous type, I can able to access this. So the third point, you can't able to reassign it. For example, I am trying to assign it. You will get a right. All the anonymous type properties are read only. Okay. You are clear? Let me run again. You can see the result. Okay. Let me go through the point. An anonymous type is a type without any name. It can contain only public read-only properties. It can't have other members such as field, methods, events, etc. The properties of anonymous types are read-only and can't be initialized with null, anonymous function or a pointer type. The properties can be accessed using dot notation, same as object property. Okay, here we having two more extension of anonymous type, nested anonymous type and array of. Let me go through that one. Here you can see we having the property a, b, name. Also I declare one more property called object. Okay, so this object is again having one more anonymous type. This is called nested anonymous type. Why it is anonymous type? Because we are not keeping the name. Also we are using the syntax like new curly braces. In the curly braces having the property of string variable. Okay, how we can able to access the nested property? Again the same first object dot this property dot the nested property. So let me run and see the output. See here, nested object. We are get it right. Okay, this is nested object. Okay, let me run. How we can able to create the anonymous array. Okay, see here, I am having the new of array. This is a keyword of creating anonymous array. New of array. In the curly braces, I am having new set of anonymous objects. Okay, here our object is array now, right? So I am looping that array. I am getting the individual anonymous type. I am printing it. Let me show you one. See here, we are getting the two set of arrays. Okay, I am getting the confused. Maybe you also will get. For example, this is anonymous type. So I am adding one more type. Let me change this. Change some variable name to C. Okay. See here, I am getting the error because the anonymous array type should have the all the anonymous type on the same name in the same type. For example, let me change this to string. I will get an array. It won't allow to change the name, change the value of particular variable. Even I try to ignore one property. It is again throwing an error. Okay, let me add one more variable here. At least let me check. It is allow. It won't allow. So all the anonymous array type objects should have the same structure here. Okay. Let me move on to the next. Anonymous method. An anonymous method is a method without a name. Anonymous methods in C# can be defined using the delegate keyword and can be assigned to a variable of delegate type. Okay, what is anonymous method? Let me go through our sample and come back to the description to get clear idea. Here you can see I declared one delegate. First you have to know what is delegate. Actually delegate is a data type we are defining as a function. I mean functional data type they will call it as. For example, you having one variable. If you declare int 32, okay, int variable a, so you can assign integer variable for that particular variable. So for example, you are declaring one string data type, string, yes, so you can able to assign string for that variable. So like the way you have to declare one data type, particular variable has to assign function. For example, meaning you have to declare one x data type. That x data type, I mean with variable, some variable, actually it's not the x, just you can consider some x. So I am declaring one variable like a sample function. So you have to assign some function here. You can't write because we don't have defined data type for assigning the function. So in that case, for this achieving this, we having the delegates. So the delegates, while you declaring the delegates, you can use as a data type for that. For example, I declare the test delegate void test. So the delegate will cover what is the return type of the function, what is the parameter count and parameter type of the function. Here I don't have any parameter, my return type is void, so it won't consider the name of this. So you can have any name, like for example, you are declaring integer and you are giving the variable any name, right? So like the way I am using this test, I can have any name. So for example, I am having one function, same structure it should be. So I am having one static void display. Okay, so this function I can able to assign it here. Here you should not assign like this. Actually it is a function call, right? You are going to assign function, so you should assign like this. So for example, if I you got it, right? So how we are assigning the values to the particular variable based on the data type, we have to assign the function to the particular variable. So for that we need the data type. For this data type is a custom data type. Using the delegates we are defining it. For example, here I am declaring int I. In that case it won't, I will come to this part next, our anonymous function. So before that you have to clear on what is delegate. Here we are getting error. Why? Because our data type having the structure like void return type on one parameter. Okay, let me declare one parameter, string s. Still it's throwing an error because it is having the int data type, right? So let me change to int. Okay, now we are not getting, so we can able to call this again. So using this variable you can able to call, you have to pass one variable. Let me print this so that you will console.writeLine. I'm using this our parameter yes, right? Okay, see display 1. Okay, now you are clear about this delegates, right? Okay, here for this assigning this value, for example, you have to assign one more function for this delegate. So every time you could not use this function. So this is called function assigning. So instead of this function declaration, you can do anonymous function assigning. So that's what I am here doing it. I am not declaring explicitly one function, just I am creating the function of anonymous type. For creating the anonymous type, you should use the delegate keyword there, delegate of function, and I am opening braces and closing braces. Okay, here I am doing the same. this is a, I mean, yeah, just I am returning it. Okay, let me call this. We are getting it right. So we are assigning one function to the delegate object. That function without naming function we are assigning it, that is the anonymous function. For declaring the anonymous function we have to use the delegate as a keyword. Okay, consider it having the property of integer. How we can able to achieve that? Here we can declare variable. Okay, so like the way you can have any number of variable here. Let me show you that too, so that you will get clear. Like the way you can have any number. So same kind of things you can assign some other methods too. I am declaring one more variable. Here I am declaring one more anonymous function. Here maybe I am declaring anonymous method 2. Okay, so you can call using this name. So this is a call anonymous method. I hope you are clear with the anonymous one. Also previously we discussed. Let me go through again. An anonymous method is a method without a name. Anonymous method in C# can be defined using delegate keyword and can be assigned to a variable of delegate type. Okay, you are clear? Okay, let's move on to the next. Extension methods. Okay, an extension method is one that is used to extend the functionality of existing types by adding methods without need of creating new derived type. You don't need to create subclass of existing classes or recompile or modify your existing class to work with extension method. Okay, I know. Yeah, program, then come back again. Here you can see I am having one variable called name. I am assigning, it is a string variable. I am assigning the name called engine. So I am having the need, whenever I have to create one method, that whenever I am calling that method, it has to do function what I have did. Here you can see I created one function convert to greeting. Okay, so what are the string we are having it? So it will append hi particular string. Here I am passing engine, so it has to do. Normally what we'll do, we will have a function like this. We will have a function like a function. Let me copy this same. Okay, we will have like this. Let me show you. Hi engine. What is the difference? It is a normal function, but here we are passing as a parameter. But a difference between this extension, let me show you in the next. Name dot conversion. Actually, this is a function of our class. The convert to greeting is a function of our class, but it is a function of this string class. You can see if you go to this is a string class. I am go to this. It having the string, but it having set of functions compare those things. Okay, so using this name, I can able to access what are the functions are predefined in that class. Because you can see the name, if I kept name dot compare, I am able to access this compare. Okay, if I go to this F12, I can see it is a one class they have defined it. So like the way we are injecting some method or we are extending method to the particular specific class. So extending the method of existing class and achieving our things is called extension method. You can see it here. I extended the method because the convert to greeting is not the predefined method of string, but I extended. How I extended? For that we need one static class. I am having one static class. In that static class I am declaring the method which I have to extend. So it should be same like static. What is the return type of that method? Maybe if you don't want the return type, you can define it as a void. Right now I need a return type. So here you can see I am using this is the first property, this dot string dot a. So what will happen, it should be same like where we are extending. Here I am mentioning the string. So what will happen, it will extend in the string class. For example, here I extend int. Okay, so in that case it will extend to the int, not the string. So int a equal to 1. Okay, then it should be a dot convert to greeting. Let me show you that. Hi 1. So our extension defined by this first parameter. Okay, I got it, that this is a keyword to denote the particular class. It is a class name. This is a representation of object name. We can give any name of this, so that what will happen, in this a you can get this variable. So a dot, if you put, you will get here that a object. Okay, for example, here I need to pass one more parameter, string alternate name. So in the I want to append this name to here. Okay, this is a variable, I have to add it here. Maybe I can say additional name. Additional. Here I am passing name 2. So here you can see this method having 2 parameter, but here I am passing only one argument, because this is won't consider as a parameter. It is a by default the extension method syntax. So whenever we are declaring the extension method, this is the first parameter we are declaring to define the which class this method has to extend. So it will, for this method considering as it having only one parameter. Okay, let me show you that sample. See here, hi 1 and name 2. You are clear now? Let me repeat this. An extension method is one that is used to extend the functionality of existing type by adding extension without the need of creating new derived type. So as I told, right, in that string we are not we are extending, but I am not recompiling that string class. It is a existing one. Okay, I mean I am not deriving that string to my class, and I am not declaring that. You got my point, right? Okay, you don't need to create subclass of existing class. Yes, we didn't create it. Or recompile. Yes, we are not recompile. Or modify your existing class to work with the extension method. Yes, we are not changing the code in existing class, right? Just we are extending the method. You got it, right? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Yield. It is helpful to support asynchronous process. Okay. Yield used to return partial value on iteration. No need of using temporary collection variable. Okay, it is helpful to support asynchronous. Okay, let's move on to the program, then come back here. You can see here I am having the two method. One is main method, another one I am having the collection process method. So here just I am creating one collection. In that collection I am adding the values 0 to 10. Okay, just I am returning this value, just I am printing it here. I am getting this value in this collection, again doing the looping here. So we are getting 0 to 9. Okay, here you can see if I put any return here, return statement, what will happen? It will stop in the first iteration itself. Okay, let me do return collection. You can see it drop here. Okay, so if we are specifying the return and return of particular specify, it will break it there itself. So here we are using the temporary variable. So what I am going to do, what is the purpose of this? So I am removing this temporary object. Here just I am doing the yield keyword, EIELD. sorry, yield yield keyword, what we are going to return? Just this variable, right? So what happen if we are declaring return previously, it will get break, but here you can see I am using returning here, even I am not returning the entire I enumerable collection. Here I am returning integer numeric variable, but I am using the yield keyword. So what will happen whenever we are using the yield, it will consider the collection of, it's going to return the partial value, but the final output of this return is collection of this particular value. Okay, let me run this. We are getting this value. Okay, how it get executed? Let me debug and check that one. You can see here, in every iteration I am getting and printing, again I am getting this value. I am moving here, this flow is going here and coming here, going here, because it is doing as a asynchronous process. It's previously what will happen, it get completed here, then it move on to this. I mean this right now if you check this collection, it won't have the all the properties of, I mean the 10 values, but previously it has. So purpose of yield, you got it? Yield used to return partial value on iteration. No need of using temporary collection variable. It is helpful to support asynchronous process. You got it? Okay, let's move on to the next. Partial class. Partial class provides a special ability to implement the functionality of single class into multiple file. As a name describes, you can able to separate the same class into separate file. That is the main feature of this partial class, and all these files are combined into a single class when the application is getting compiled. A partial class is created by using the partial keyword. Okay, we will see the sample and come back. You can see here I am having one class file that is called sample. This having the method of static method display. Just I am printing sample.display here. This main method I am using that because that is a static method, right? So I am using the class name, I am just printing it. Let me show you that output. Yeah, we get the sample display output. Okay, so we having some need in this class. For example, if I created one more method, I can able to access using this class name. If it is a normal non-static members, I can using object, I can able to access it. Okay, that's clear. What is a partial class? So there is a need, I have to create one more file. So maybe for example the maintaining aspect, I am segregating the same class into multiple files. I am creating like one more file name, this class sample. Just I am having the sample extension file, extension maybe ext file. Okay, here I am going to change the same sample. Okay, I am just making as like, you have to make sure this all in the same namespace. Okay, because this sample also in the same namespace, this sample also in the same namespace. You can see we are getting the error. The namespace is already defined in the sample because the sample is already there in the particular namespace. So what we could not able to create same class name multiple times. So what we can do, we are going to declare partial keyword here. So I have made it as if this class is partial, meaning you can, there is a, you can extend another partial class in the separate file or same file. Let me show you here. Now you can see another partial missing partial modifier, because if I specify partial, we won't get this error. Okay, let me recreate the display2 method here. Again I am creating static display2. Let me call this method. Okay, let me show you that too. Sample dot, you can see In this sample class itself I am getting display and display2, because at the compile time or runtime actually both class will get into the single one. Not only the both class, like the way you can create any number of partial class. So currently I am having only one partial class. For example, in the main class if I remove partial, still I will get an, let me show you that too. Still I can't do that, because whenever you are planning to have a partial class, all the class should be declared with the partial. There is a not the case like it is a parent class, it should not have it, the other child class can have the partial. It's not like that. All the wherever we are using that class, declaring the class, we should have the partial, then only we can able to achieve it. Okay, let me try this display2 and see the output. Sample. Okay, we will go through our description now. Partial class provides special ability to implement the functionality of single class into multiple files, and all these files are combined into a single class file when the application is compiled by using the partial keyword. You are clear? Yeah. So we were discussed as all these defined items. I hope you are getting the clear idea. If you having the any doubt, please put it on comment window.